Welcome back to Making Money Matter, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kerry Stevenson, your host today, and I've asked the Managing Director and CEO of Spartan Resources. Great name. ASX code is SPR. Simon Lawson has joined Spartan back in November 2021, almost 2 years in the hot seat. Spartan was formerly known as Gascoigne. We're going to get into what he's done. The company is going from strength to strength. It's the name on everyone's lips at the moment, and gold is the place to be. Hence my gold jacket, Simon. Good to see you.
Oh, it's looking good. I actually feel underdressed. I should have put my gold jacket on too. Could have been twins.
We could have been twins today. Look, first time on Making Money Matter, or I should probably call it Making Gold Matter today, because that's what Spartan Resources is all about. You're about gold in WA. Let's start off with a brief background of Spartan.
Sure. So Spartan came into being only a few months ago, actually, as you said, renamed from Gascoigne Resources. I joined and pretty quickly we made a series of discoveries and realized that there was a very different future for the company if we could leverage from those discoveries. And I suppose very quickly, fast forward 12 months later, and we had 721,000 ounces at 5.85 grams a tonne sitting in front of a already built plant. There's obviously been a lot of activity in between now and then. We turned the plant off in November this year. Last year, and we've built this amazing discovery into something very significant, and we're now looking for more of these same structures within that greenstone belt at Dalgaranga, and we've been very successful. So we've got 6 rigs on site at the moment. And geos generally don't put that many rigs on site unless they're pretty excited about things. So they can only drill one target at a time, which means we've got quite a few targets on the go.
I've got so many questions right now, but let me start with the first one, which I think is, Gascoigne, and I hate to go back in history, but just a little bit, they went through some challenging times. You seem to have come on board and gone, you're looking in the wrong direction. Like, what's been the change that has made you, Spartan Resources is literally on fire at the moment and finding some really good high-grade ounces over there at these deposits. What's been the change? Did you just look at it through a different lens, or what's happened?
Yeah, look, I suppose I've become a specialist in doing this over 2 decades now. I spent a lot of time at Northern Star, and our key driving force there was to identify assets that were unloved or that were underutilized, or different ideas that hadn't been tested before, and then testing them. And that was kind of the secret sauce to that company, and it really resonated with me, and I took it out and followed a couple of different assets out of Northern Star, and then basically just worked on them in the same way. Identify the leverage that works, whether it's grade, whether it's the team, whether it's the knowledge, whether you need to drill more and find that knowledge and then use that to your advantage. Or whether it's corporate restructuring and making sure that the company and the balance sheet are tidy and that you're focused on what you're doing from a business perspective. Those are all angles that I look at. I am a geologist, but I'm a mining geologist. I've always focused very heavily on economics. And Bill Beamon's great saying, it's a business in a first and a mining company second, always really stuck with me. And so I look at it that way all the time. And coming into Gascoigne, it was, what do we have now that we can use to our advantage? And what it was a geological data set within the minds of the people that had been working there for several years, who'd been through those difficult times, but knew where there were some opportunities. And I just simply sat down with those guys and said, look, this is a difficult place for you guys to be. And I've come in and agreed to be your boss now. And now I'm not going to come and tell you how to do your job, because you guys have all that knowledge. So I sat with them, we whiteboarded a bunch of different ideas, and the first one we drilled came up with a new discovery, and then that's obviously accelerated from 0 ounces to 720, and we're on track to 1 million ounces by the end of this year on that discovery. So that is a considerable turnaround for anybody, but to have that team and the ownership they have of that decision and those discoveries, they are all still part of the team, and I love that. Right, they have full ownership of what they're doing now.
Why did you choose? I love the fact that you said a moment ago, it's a business. It's not just mining. This is a business, and you look at the economics around it. You said a moment ago that you sat the team down and you said to one of them, right, we'll go and drill that hole. Why that one? What, like, What did you?
Well, it was funny because I had four of them at the same time say, when I asked, what do you want to do first? Four of them said the same thing, which is follow up that drill hole that's 140 meters away from the pit. And what was the worst that could happen? I said to them at the time, what we could fail, but who cares? Let's go and drill that hole anyway, and we'll see what happens. And we followed it up. It had grade in it. We followed it up with a blast hole rig. I had a blast hole rig that was drilling benches in the open pit that had the ability to drill holes, and we didn't have an RC rig on site. So I said, can we get that blast hole rig out of the pit and go and drill a follow-up hole? And if that proves positive, then we'll get an RC rig. And 4 days later, we had an RC rig there, and we drilled over 150 drill holes. And that's when we really realized we're onto something really special. We drilled 300 meters along strike from this pit. We made a discovery which probably didn't really surprise a lot of people because it's on a long strike from an existing ore body. It wasn't super high grade at that time, but then we drilled 54 meters at 6.5, and we realized we're onto something really, really special here. But just to make sure, we drilled a couple of holes at a couple of different angles, just to make sure we weren't drilling down a structure or, drilling down dip or something like that. And those two holes came back at 59 meters at 12.5 and 32 meters at 8.6. And so we'd proven to ourselves that this thing was special, and then we just set about drilling and building a new resource and a new future for ourselves. And that came from that conversation and those four fingers pointing in the same direction. It's incredible what happens when you sort of take stock, sit back, think about what you're doing, and then go again. And I must admit, I leverage off the opportunity created by others. All the information that led to those people pointing the fingers in the same direction came from the legacy that was Gascoyne before. And I am grateful for all of that happening, because without it, we never would have made those decisions.
But if they'd known about it before, why wasn't it drilled before? Sorry, if I might have been.
I can't answer that question.
Like a 5-year-old, but
yeah, look, I don't know the answer to that. I just know that there were some theories that that were being tested at the time I turned up, and I wasn't a big fan of those theories because they weren't bearing fruit.
Right.
There'd been $6 million spent in a fairly rapid fashion, and there were drill rigs drilling 26 kilometers away from that plant. And I thought, well, do we really know everything we need to know within 2 kilometers of that plant? And the answer was no. We really need to drill from that center outward, from low risk to high risk. Why take the high risk straight away? I mean, for me, it's simple. Find the extensions to the ore bodies you've already got, and then see if you can't find better grade within those existing deposits. And that's pretty much exactly what happened, but very, very quickly.
You just said as well, 720,000 ounces today, as I speak to you in November 23, but rapidly advancing to 1 million ounces.
That's our target, yeah. Yep.
How are you going to do that, Mr. Lawson?
Well, the 6 rigs are certainly helping. We've got 3 of those on Never Never right now, and they are plumbing the depths, basically. But I mean, we followed this thing from 0 meters to over 500 meters pretty quickly. We've been drilling that out to indicated, but at the same time drilling extension holes beneath that, which is why we were able to expand, from an initial resource of 90,000 ounces, which didn't really get people's heart pumping, to 321,000 ounces. And people thought, okay, maybe I need to look at this. And then we put out 721 at 5.85, and 630,000 of those ounces are at 7.7 grams a ton. And 76% of that is indicated. So, there's some very stringent policies and procedures we follow. As a mine geologist, I'm very fixed on the economics, and I want to make sure that when you come from a position where Gascoyne was to now where Spartan is, that we are building back some integrity and really some transparency in our process to show people we are systematically changing the future of this ore body, of this plant, of this infrastructure. And we're going about it very methodically and informing people of what we're doing. I think that's really important. I think, we are a point of difference because of our grade. We are the highest grade undeveloped story in Australian gold space at the moment. And for me, that's...
that's a big call, Simon.
Well, obviously Bellevue's gone into production now, so they are developed, which means for us, we were second fiddle to the Bellevue guys, and I know those guys really well, being ex-Northern Star guys as well. And for me, it's such a small industry, and it's such a good opportunity, this deposit that we have, and for them to go into production and show people that even with the cost inflations and
Yeah.
struggles with labor and all the rest of it, they've managed to achieve that hurdle. And for us, we're about building our resource, but we have that infrastructure in place, so we have an advantage. And I just look to Bellevue as a you know a peer and somewhere where we would like to go at some stage in the future. But right now, we're actually just really happy building this resource in front of pre-built infrastructure. We're not going to go out there and do a big development raise to build things because we've already built it, which means we really have this great opportunity to just build the mine life to the point where we're happy to turn the plant back on.
That was where I was going to go to next, because you joined in November 21.
Yeah.
Shut the plant down in November 22.
Correct.
What was the strategy around doing that? Not ready to have a plant on at the moment. What is the point? Was that the thinking?
Oh, look, I walk into these situations and there's been a lot of water under the bridge before I show up. I generally take stock of these opportunities, and I think, well, okay, I'm going to let it run for what's happening at the moment. I'm going to try and tickle around the edges and see if I can't improve and see if we can't optimize and get this into a shape where it's actually working. At the same time, we're going to drill for growth, because what's the worst that can happen? You fail. You don't find any growth. Okay, well, then that's fine. But if you don't know, you don't know. So drill some holes. And that's exactly
Right.
what we did. We had a two-speed approach, which was try and optimize the plant and the pit that we're already mining and those other deposits, and at the same time drill like crazy to find something different, the high grade unicorn type deposit that we then found. And it's significant. I look back on that all the time and just think, well, this is where we were and this is where we are now. It's a very, very different world. And that's why we changed the name just recently, because I felt comfortable to be able to change that name to represent what we are now, which is a small group of people that are doing the impossible and against all odds have succeeded. And I take, whether you watch the movie 300 and take that kind of very over masculine approach, or you just think about what the Spartans represented to the people of Greece at the time, they were a small army of people that did the impossible. And for me, it's a great story.
It is a great story, and I love the name Spartan Resources, and you're really taking it on. But one of the things you said a moment ago, which I'm not quite sure I grasped, was a unicorn type deposit.
Yeah. Yeah, these things. I mean, when someone says to you, okay, well, the two things you can do with an operation, from a mining geo perspective or from a mining engineering perspective, you come into an operation that's struggling. There's only two things you can do to change the revenue, right? It's either you decrease the costs or you improve the head grade. You improve your revenues. And if you're, I mean, the easiest thing to do is try and trim your costs, right? Because you can go in anywhere and basically say, well, we're not buying any more of that, and we're not buying that at that price. We're going to negotiate and la la la. But I mean, I walked in there and there was an accountant of some reputation running that site, and I'm by no means a numbers guy. He had that ship running super tight. That mill was running at $14 a ton, which was class leading. Industry leading. I'd challenge anybody to tell me that they're running unit costs lower than that. I mean, Mark Clark probably at Capricorn is doing that because he's got a 6 million ton plant. But $14 a ton processed. The only problem is the grade going into it wasn't yielding the results we needed. And so I knew, okay, the costs are fine. Now I need to do the really impossible thing, which is change the grade. And for a geologist, that's a big uphill. That's like looking at a mountain and going, I have to climb to the top of that, and I've got one leg. So,
I love the analogy. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just look at it and I just think, wow, that is, I'm no smarter than anybody else that's walked into this place before. We don't have a huge amount of time. We don't have enough money to do pretty much anything. So that's a unicorn situation. If you can take those variables and create massive opportunity like we have, that only happen once in a career. I mean, I suppose I've had the benefit of being through the Jubilee Mines takeover by Xstrata, and I thought you can create real value in a resources company by just drilling and finding and growing the resource. You can create these massive opportunities. And then I went to Silver Lake and we had a great time there and built that company from a very small sort of 14-cent stock to $1.50 when I left. And and then I went into Northern Star, and it's just these different opportunities where you can take the drill and you can create value. and it doesn't really matter what commodity you're in. And there's plenty of examples in the market at the moment, but I just love gold. And so for me, I
Good.
understand gold, and you drill gold and you find more gold. And, you know, some people have said it's luck, but this is probably the fourth time I've done these kind of, iterations, different leverage. But this was an amazing one. This was so satisfying, because to take a team that had been through rough
Yeah.
and
Hell.
tumble, they'd been through the bloody clothes dryer, right?
Yeah. Backwards.
Bounced around backwards, yeah, and everyone said, oh, Gascoigne. It's like, okay, well, what do we do here? We leverage what we have, which is knowledge, and how best to do that. Just take the knowledge and execute, test the theories. And I was prepared to actually spend every last dollar to
Wow.
find the thing that changed the grade, that really changed that revenue stream. And it didn't take that long. We had $3 million that I spent, that we didn't really have, and
Wow.
we were a loss-making
That's
operation at the time.
gutsy.
Yeah,
That's
well, look,
gutsy.
it's kind of one of those things, right? Like, what are you going to do? Sit on the couch and wait for the end, or are you gonna have a crack? And I love having a crack. I love putting it all on the table, rolling the dice, and just going, you know what? This is what we've got to do. This is what shareholders want us to do, because
Right.
you could spend all that money on office administration and printers and bits of paper and all the rest of it, or you can drill some holes. And if you fail, the shareholders can look at you and go, okay, well, you know what? You didn't actually get what you wanted, but look at the exploration space. There's plenty of people out there that go and have a crack and they don't win. And
Yeah.
that's just how it is, right? It's sometimes it is very difficult. It's a difficult environment. But for me, resource geology, mining geology, walking into an existing operation, drill a long strike. It's like the golden rule. Drill under infrastructure.
Yeah.
It's like a meme, right? It's,
Yeah.
there's going to be gold somewhere. It just so happens that we found the most amazing deposit I've seen in probably 20 years of doing this, and we're
And
making
very
it bigger.
close. And very
Oh,
close.
600 meters from the plant. It's almost too close. It's a first world problem. When someone says to you, oh, well, when we fire the new pit, there's going to be fly rock potentially coming near the roadways. I'm like, oh, wow, that
What a
is
problem to have.
that is a bummer. We'll just have to manage that from a safety perspective, but let's hope those rocks have gold in them.
So, what's the plans? I cannot believe I'm talking to you as we're coming to the end of 23. What the hell happened to 23? But I'm sure you feel the same way. It's been a busy year for Spartan.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. What's the plans for 24? You just said you've got six drill. That's a lot of drill rigs.
Yeah,
Talk
four
to,
diamond
talk,
rigs, four diamond
talk to
rigs,
us
two
about
RCs.
funding. Talk to us about
Yep.
plans for 24.
Sure. So we just put out a quarterly, 28.2 million bucks in the bank. So well funded to do what we need to do. 6 rigs, 4 diamonds, 2 RCs. Some of those RC rigs are doing pre-collars for the diamonds so that it's cheaper. We're optimizing everything we can, but we're building massive news flow, because at the end of this year, we want to put out a resource update for Never Never and for Gilbey's, which was the previous loss-making low-grade open pit. What we've found, I suppose, just to sort of expand, Never Never is a structural intersection with a stratigraphic sequence. So basically a fault cutting across a rock package. That fault has been carrying gold and introduced gold into the rock package. What they were mining previously was the rock package. What I'm focusing on is the structure. So what we're seeing in that open pit, the Gilbey's open pit, is there's a number of these structures that were mined across and essentially mined as one big diluted open pit. But if you focus on those structures, there's actually incredibly high grade sitting sequentially throughout that pit. And we're drilling those right now. They're called Four Pillars and West Winds. There's a number of other targets there as well. But what we've taken is the knowledge from Never Never and gone back and looked at what we previously saw. And you can see similarities in mineralization. You can see 30% over reconciliation on production. We had a record quarter in March 2022, which allowed us to pay off some bills and get our balance sheet sorted out. The reason we were able to do that is because we mined through a very high grade area, which at the time we didn't realize what it was. But when we look at Never Never now and look at that area, they're exactly the same. So there's some very high grade, high silica, high gold areas within Gilbey's. That's the Four Pillars and West Winds targets. And we're going to be bringing a heap of news flow on those 2 targets to the market in the next few weeks, leading up to Christmas. And that's where the basis for the new resource to add to the Never Never resource update. So there'll be 2 resources within this end of year update program. and they will be considerable in terms of grade.
How far is Gilbey's from Never Never? Is this all within the same sort of belt, the same sort of structure, or are we?
Yeah, so Never Never, the discovery hole for Never Never was probably 140 meters along strike from Gilbey's. So
Oh, okay.
within 1 kilometer of that plant, we already have close to 1.2 million ounces at 2.2 grams a ton. That's using the old Gilbey's resource and the new Never Never resource. If you then take into account that it's likely we'll get close to 1 million ounces, if not 1 million ounces at Never Never, and that is our goal. And then we rejuvenate the Gilbey's, Four Pillars and West Winds high grade aspects of that pit. You put those two together, what we're focused on is getting that head grade up and getting us some more tons, because we do have a big plant, right? 2.5 million tons per annum. That's a big plant. But what we're seeing already is that if you take the 16.7 million tons we've already got with the old resource of Gilbey's and the new resource of Never Never, you've got 6.5 years of mine life at 2.2 grams a ton, which is twice the grade of what the resource was before. So we've already changed the world. What we're focused on is growing those tons and increasing that grade so that we can say there's 10 years of mine life, there's already a plant there, and we may or may not turn it on middle of next year. Our plan is to turn it back on middle of next year, right? We said we'd do that. We are big on delivering on what we say. And for me, middle of next year, we'll have a financial investment decision to turn that plant back on, or we keep drilling. And what's the harm, right? Like the thing is, we build resources. My number plate on my car is Mine Maker because I take this thing really seriously. We build mines. And, you know, I live that every day. We drill holes, we create resources, we turn them into reserves. You leverage off the infrastructure you've got and you create a business. And if it's not a sustainable business, if it's not a free cash flow building, you know, epic business in the middle of next year, then we'll just keep drilling and we'll make it better.
Inflation, is that an issue for you guys? I mean, a lot of people talking about inflation, you know, capital costs, etc.
Yeah.
It's good that you've got the plant. You've turned it off. You can turn it back on. It's not like you're building a whole new plant. But Simon, are there some cost pressures along the way?
Well, that's one of the reasons why we turned the plant off. It's pretty obvious from quite a few of my peers' quarterlies that there is some serious pressure on balance sheets from inflation. And by not being in operation, we've actually removed ourselves from what I call the mouse wheel, which is that you're constantly bashing your head against the same step every time it comes around, trying to beat inflation. And you can't control inflation. We can't control the diesel prices. We can't control labor costs. We can't control the mining costs most of the time. You can optimize things, but, you know, we were right on that mouse wheel. We were eating every increase in every aspect of our business. And to me, I was like, let's not do this. Let's actually take a step back. Yes, we have to turn the plant off. Yes, it's going to be difficult. Yes, we're going to have to be brave, but we did it. And to me, we've been vindicated, and that inflation is built since then, and it's made it difficult for a lot of our peers. And I feel for them because I know exactly where they are. But for us, inflation isn't hurting us too much at the moment. Diesel costs are still there, but we're burning diesel to drill holes, to make the resource, to build this mine life, and to be able to turn that plant back on. We've got a state-of-the-art plant, right? We've got a huge power station that's just sitting there idle at the moment with gas generators. So we're not going to be burning thousands of litres of diesel or any of that sort of stuff. We've got a really clean plant that's really high efficiency. And I personally, I'd love to see it turn back on. But at the same time, you know, if inflation's too high and we feel more comfortable just building that mine life, I think it's going to make sense to a lot of people that we just stay off the mouse wheel for a little bit longer. But we said we'd make a decision middle of next year. We'll produce a feasibility study that will show the metrics, that will show that revenue change. People will be very surprised by the numbers we put out, and I'll be pretty happy to put that out there.
Well, as you said before, ladies and gentlemen, no guts, no glory. Here's a man that's got the guts and has totally turned this around. We're running out of time, Simon. You'll have to come back. So much news coming up. So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check out Spartan Resources. But for now, give us 3 reasons why we should be sitting up and taking notice of the good old Spartan Resources. Go Spartan. ASX code is SPR. Go, Simon.
Well, of course, I'm going to say that Spartan's the best investment out there, but I suppose
Eh,
the theme at the moment, as indicated by your jacket, is that gold is the place to be. It's been unloved for some time, and I think we're really well positioned for people to invest at low valuations as this gold price climbs, and as we show the value that we're creating with the drill bits. That's one of the reasons why Spartan is a good investment. I
mhm.
suppose the other one is that it's purely about grade, right? We're building one of the highest grade undeveloped stories in the West Australian space, if not Australia, if not the Southern Hemisphere. I went to Beaver Creek just recently and they were very impressed by what we're doing. And it was good to get the endorsement from the North Americans. We had a significant fund follow us home. They're now 5.1% of our register. So
Oh, wow.
that has really vindicated what we've been doing, and for the North Americans to buy into that, it is a
Mhm.
global story, and I'm super proud of that. So that's the other thing. The grade is very appealing. The third one, obviously, we deliver. We went from 0 to 721,000 ounces in 12 months. That's a serious accelerator to be pressing on. We're going to take it to 1 million ounces by the end of this year, just that one deposit, and the desire is there to create more and keep building the resource base and reserve base in front of that plant. We deliver, and we will deliver those outcomes for shareholders.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have to get him back. The passion goes, it shows clearly. Congratulations, Simon. You certainly turned it around. We look forward to the resource update, the growing, the 6 rigs. It's a busy time over there, and I know you have been very busy, so I appreciate your time here on Making Gold Matter. We'll call it that today. Thanks so much, Simon Lawson from Spartan Resources.
Thank you, Kerry. Appreciate it.